I'm Dr. Tamar Chansky, and today we're talking about how to correct your anxious child. And really, any child in a situation of being corrected is anxious, so we could back up and say this is how to effectively correct your child, period. But we are focusing on what happens in the minds of an anxious child as a way of tailoring your feedback to your child in a way that's most constructive for them. A lot of parents will say to me, he did this or that wrong, but I don't want to stress him out. I don't want to correct him because I know how upset he'll be. And what I tell those parents is it's not about correcting or not, it's really about how you do it, because we know kids need to learn limits. The best person to do that teaching is in the safety of the home with parents. So understanding that anxious kids think about getting in trouble all the time. And they so rarely do. That's what, when they wake up in the morning, they're thinking, did they do something wrong at school? They think the teacher's mad at them, the teacher's not mad at them. They may go to bed worrying about that getting in trouble idea. And so this is really an opportunity when you do talk about the things that your child does that are, that they need to learn about more to make different choices. It's actually really helping them to see that there is life on the other side of a correction, and it's very survivable. So in case you don't, I tend to be long-winded. I know this about myself, so I'm just gonna cut to the chase in case you don't have time because your kids are running around and you need to get to them. I'm going to cut to the chase and start with the strategy that is most helpful for correcting any child, but certainly your anxious child. And that is that when they're doing something, misbehaving, they broke something, they didn't clean up their mess, they disobeyed a rule, whatever it may be, that you say, what do you think I'm gonna say here? And most of the time, kids in general, but again, anxious kids are just much more vigilant about and responsible for their own behavior, so they very likely know what they did wrong. You're giving them an opportunity to show you that they know the lesson that they need to learn here, and they can actually do it themselves without, it will be more reassuring to you in a way. It'll be less stressful for your child if they're given that opportunity to tell you what they did wrong. I know you told me not to, be on my iPad at bedtime, or you told me not to eat that food that was for company, or whatever it may be. And then you can go from there. So they tell you what it is. They've already kind of softened because they know they're not in the hot seat waiting to see, like a shot at the doctor, what you're going to do. You have helped to make this more of a collaborative process for them, and they can tell you what they've done. So we're going to fine tune from there, but that's sort of the core idea, is to realize that your child is wants to do well. Their sense of doing wrong is far exaggerated and distorted, just no fault of their own anxieties, making them feel like they need to be on the lookout all the time for things that they're doing wrong. And that is not the case. So helping them to take charge of themselves is going to be something that just really lowers the stress for your child in the household, knowing that they can be the one to tell you what they did wrong. Now, sometimes they might really not know. Most of the time they will. But asking that question, what do you think I'm going to say here? Or what do you think the rule is? Those kinds of questions help give kids a chance to advocate for themselves and speak up and correct themselves before anything else needs to happen. But that aside, other strategies that will be helpful to lower the stress for your child is, one, to be aware of your voice, your tone, Lots of times kids will say, my parents were yelling at me, and the parents were like, what? They felt that they weren't yelling. Again, realizing that there's kind of less insulation on the wires when you're an anxious child, anxious person, and so everything does feel more amplified. Respect that. It will go better all around if you do, if you're aware of your tone and just say what it is that you need to say without raising your voice. That's going to be really helpful for your child, because you want them to learn. You don't want them to be scared. Authoritative parenting is really about your taking charge, but teaching your children to regulate themselves. If they're afraid of you, they're not going to learn. They're not going to absorb the lesson that you want them to glean from that situation. They're just going to be afraid. So another strategy is to stay away from the language of blame and just focus on the behavior. So rather than saying, it's all your fault, just focus on what they did. They're not a bad person. You don't want to give that sense or really reinforce that sense that they probably already have, that if you kind of one strike and you're out, if you do something wrong, then you're a bad person. You want to really stay specific and talk about the behavior that you want them to make a different choice about next time. You can teach kids too about what changes and what doesn't when you have corrected them. Countering that idea that they're a bad person or that you don't love them, that you let them know they're still, you can say, but what changes? Are you a different person now because that happened? Do you think that my feelings for you or my love for you has changed? Obviously do that in a friendly way, but help your child to see that no, your feelings about them and who they are continuous. What changed is just that you want them to do something differently next time in that situation. But what do we do about what has happened? I always say it's better to ask for reparations rather than give consequences. Parents often are kind of chasing around trying to figure out, what should be the consequence of this? What should be the consequence? What do I take away? And really, if you think about it, especially for anxious kids, they're so upset that they've done something that has made people unhappy, that the thing that they need is to find a way to repair and kind of feel back in the family. Or if it's in a classroom, same thing, to be back in the community. And so you can think about what they could do to fix or repair or help out, if what they did resulted in they broke something or something along those lines, that you had to spend time, taking care of that. You might ask them if they can do something to help you. A lot of times with kids, even with little kids, you can say, what could you do now, do you think, to help? And it's wonderful to step back and give kids a chance to answer that, because they may really have ways that we wouldn't expect that are better than what we thought of, and that's great. Ways that they can step back in and help out. And that's really important, that the point, again, of discipline or correcting is, building a better community within your home, within your classroom, and so they're going to tell you how they can do that. If they can't think of anything, that's fine. You can offer some things that they could do to help, some task to clean up, or to do other chores. That will be helpful. Another point that is important to raise because of what happens with anxious kids is that they may apologize a lot for what they've done, because again, in their minds, nothing feels right after they've gotten in trouble, and so they may keep trying to fix that by apologizing, and it doesn't help them to feel more secure. It makes them feel more anxious. So if you can say, talk about the face-to-face, shoulder-to-shoulder apology that's sincere, that one is enough. After one apology, that the rest is for worry and that, you don't need them. They may also worry about that you're going to be mad at them forever. And this is a moment where you can explain that feelings come and feelings go, and that you're upset about what happened. You are upset about the behavior, that your love for them doesn't change, and that you might be mad, and you can model for them that feeling of anger comes and then it goes. It doesn't stick around. You can ask them to think about a time when they've been mad at a sibling or a friend, where they said, you're not my friend anymore. I'm not going to be your friend. And what happened to that feeling? It passed, it went away, but we can have intense feelings in the moment. So it's important, because effective parenting is to keep high expectations for your child's behavior, but also flexibility in understanding that everything in life is a growth process. So kids are going to go through moments where they don't make the best choices, and that's an opportunity for them to learn better for the next time. That your goal is not for your child to be afraid of you. It's to trust that they can learn what they need to with you, and as they grow in this process, that they'll feel more comfortable and confident that when they do something wrong, they can apologize, they can own up to it, because they know that you're going to accept that. Acting in that way really creates a safer world in your home and beyond, that your child brings that sense of security, that they can mess up, that they can fix it. They bring that sense of security out into the world, and that just makes the world move better all around. So, as always, thank you for listening today. Here's to less worry all around, and more ideas on my website, tamarchansky.com.